first started out in social work, I found that the written work to me wasn't sort of my main focus. I really was interested in helping people, and I saw that as the practical work. But then as I've sort of progressed as well, I've realised that the written side of it is unfortunately equally as important. It takes up a lot of our time in social work, and also in order to advocate for people you have to really develop your professional voice, because a lot of times we may be sort of fighting for services for people, and we may have to present information to managers, and that requires a level of analysis and putting that forward. So I'm going to provide some information that's helped me to develop my case recording. But something that I would say is it's also important mainly for the people that we're supporting, because these records are about them, and the impact of what we write directly affects those people that we are supporting as well. We can also find that we have to stand by these records if we go to court, so social work records can always be looked at, and we are professionals, so we're seen as experts, and as such, like, our information can be called upon as evidence. So it is a bit pressured to make sure you are writing the right things. So one thing that I think is useful to think about is whether or not you should use theory in your written records. So I found some really useful information from the Social Care Institute for Excellence, who have said that rather than directly quoting theory, like for example attachment theory, you can make reference in day-to-day language by saying, for example, oh, so-and-so appear to have a secure attachment. Or if you're thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you don't need to reference that directly. You could just use it to inform or to write in a way where you're acknowledging people's basic needs for shelter or food. So that I found that really useful to get my head around. Another thing that's helpful is thinking about being precise in our language, not using language that could be offensive to people, but also not being vague. And I think sometimes when you're trying to not be offensive or not use the wrong terms, because it can be hard to keep up with what you can say and what you can't say. And obviously that's really important because words carry a lot of connotations, and when people are really trying to trust in social workers, like, what you say is really important. So I think that there is a skill in sort of navigating this, and a way that you sort of things you shouldn't say. And I think it's difficult when you're in situations where you're trying to describe someone's lived environment, maybe where you've been a little bit shocked with what you've seen. This could lead to you sort of using language like it was an absolute mess. They're things that you should not say. But actually you could say something like, I noticed that there was 15 or 16 bags of rubbish at that side of the room, and mouse droppings on the other side of the room. Or you could actually make reference to, in the case note, that you've taken pictures with the person's consent and include them. The fact of including these sort of pieces of evidence rather than making it your own opinion or making it really vague helps, because often when we're involved in helping people with these situations, people are working towards an end goal, and we can track people's progress in a positive way, and then we can offer some encouragement. And if you don't know where the person started, then how are you meant to do that? So it's part of taking a strengths-based approach as well. I think also on that sort of train of thought around strengths-based approaches, sometimes the language that you use, it cannot always align with actually how you're trying to help that person if you're not careful. So there can be subtle things where you could actually offend someone without really realising, and that can really undermine your approach with that individual as well. So, for example, if someone is unable to work because of a disability, it would be wrong to say they have no intention to go into work or get a job, that sort of thing could come across as really offensive or undermine someone. And I think it's like little things like that that's just worth noticing when you're writing, and it's something that I'm sort of aware of, how that person could feel, because you could have a really good relationship with someone, but then they could read that you've written something in that way and it could just really take away from the work that you're doing. One last thing that I was going to mention is about making sure that you're paraphrasing any information that another professional shares with you rather than copying and pasting information. That's because all of the records that you write are meant to be in your own professional voice and not using other people's exact words, because you don't actually have the right to put that information down. And if it was to be requested by someone that you're supporting, that information would most likely have to be redacted because you don't own the rights to that. It's their voice, and that can leave loads of blank space for that person when they're looking at their records, which can be really disconcerting. So there's some tips that I'd have to improve records in social work, and I hope that's been helpful.